Gentlemen, talk about the significance of 404 Day.
First, like to start by giving honor to Dr. King, because he actually was assassinated on the most Atlanta day ever. And in the way we move in the city that's known to party, not to 8 in the morning anymore, but well, I don't know.
Yeah, some places.
Depends on where you're at. Certain things could get lost in translation. So just starting off the day, giving thanks for what he did for us as a people and us as a country, and honoring him that day. When we used to just have one day, we've added a few days to kind of create space. Mm-hmm. And what that created space also allows for our other people with initiatives. It's been amazing to watch internally this thing come together and the sharing of resources amongst this group.
404 Day is special because it's a day dedicated to celebrating the people, places, and things that make Atlanta such a special place. One of the things we always talk about is that Atlanta doesn't necessarily get to tell its own stories. And for somebody that's been here pretty much my whole life and has, seen this city evolve over multiple decades, I won't say how many, but multiple decades, it's really interesting, right? We have this huge influx of people coming in from other places, transplants. It's a way to celebrate the old, but also bring the new folks in and, continue to move the city forward.
Well, that's important for me to hear. I've been here 20 years. When you think about college and running United Way, I come from New York. I don't know that I thought much about Atlanta until Dr. King. And that's when Atlanta came on the map to me. There are lots of people like me who don't have that experience and that history. And so even for a longtime resident, transplant, I think what you guys are doing and what you're trying to promote is incredibly important. Help me understand from your perspective, what's the significance of Atlanta? It's a global city, but it is a global brand.
When we founded Atlanta Influences Everything, my original business partner in the company, his name is Ian Ford, and he's from Brooklyn, New York. And we were running a marketing consulting company called The Tomorrows First. And Tori Edwards, other co-founder, he was just our friend, kind of in the creative space. And we were pitching Nike on a project, and they didn't understand what made Atlanta special in 2015. And some of the stuff that they were saying that Atlanta didn't have, that New York and LA and Chicago did, they were right. And it's like, dang, Atlanta, in my mind, I'm like, man, hold on, man. You right, we don't have those things, but we influence everything. And so that was just me and my emotion.
Sure.
The New York partner, he was the one that caught the phrase. I didn't know I said it. Mm-hmm. He said, from a storytelling standpoint, that he can go anywhere in the world and say, yo, where Brooklyn at? Or is Brooklyn in the house? And somebody's gonna pop out and be like, yo, it's a vibe. But that Atlanta, that our external story it wasn't being pushed externally. It was all internal. All of the natives had these amazing stories, but they weren't being pushed externally. So we understood the importance of narrative build and getting a narrative right, especially as a black man in America. You want the narrative could be wrong and it could cause a problem. So we wanted to get the narrative good, bad, and ugly, but right, and tell it externally. So.
What do you want to add to that, Brandon?
Yeah, to just piggyback on Bame's point, I always say, in Atlanta, culture is our #1 export. And, when you think about the story of Atlanta, what I've noticed is when you think about it in comparison to cities like, let's take a New York, LA, and Chicago that are kind of considered centers of culture, or centers of media or finance, right? The difference is that while all of those cities were evolving and growing up and getting bigger and bigger, down here in the South, we had this little thing called Jim Crow. We had this little thing called the Civil Rights Movement, things that were specifically kind of holding Atlanta back. So you saw cities like New York evolve. You saw cities like Chicago become a center. You saw LA blow up. But like Atlanta was always just kind of tucked down here. And for a long time, I really think people think that we lived in black and white. You know, it's always funny. Even when we talk about Black history, it's always black and white photos. And I'm like, no, all this stuff was in color. Or when you see people talk about Atlanta on TV, it's always Gone with the Wind. So there was this like very, classical, romanticized version of the South. And we weren't doing none of that stuff down here. You know, and so all of a sudden when the music started to break through and, Andrew Young was doing all these amazing things and Maynard Jackson and the airport started evolving, people started seeing, oh, wait a minute, this isn't what we thought Atlanta really was. And so, to Bame's point, there's three parts of a narrative, right? There's the origin story, the shared experience, and the idea of why it matters now. I don't think people really fully understand Atlanta's origin story. They have this romanticized version of it, and so we're trying to correct that and like maybe update that through the work that we do at Butter, through the work that, you all do with Atlanta Influences Everything, and all the other amazing groups around this city, right? Then there's the shared experience. Like we all have different experiences with Atlanta that are bringing us together. Right. And so you have reasons why Atlanta's special to you from your experience moving down here at Morehouse. I have experiences why it's special to me. Bame, same thing, right? Like we all have these different experiences that we share that we know, whether it's the traffic or it's the sweet tea or something else in between, right? There's moments we can kind of come together. But the reason why it matters now is with all the, let's call it disagreements that happen across the country with, people getting very polarized on both sides. Atlanta still is kind of this place where, creativity and people from all different sides and cultures can come together. And so when you put those three parts of the story together, the parts of that narrative, you start to get the story in your head that, wow, Atlanta is a really special, unique place. And, we want to protect that as long as we can. I understand that change is inevitable. But again, we're gonna try to do our best to help influence that change to make sure that this city continues to grow in something that, we're all proud of.
And how do we leverage that celebration to promote the brand of Atlanta, draw attention to the issues that need to be drawn attention to, and get young people, a new generation of young people, really taking full responsibility for where Atlanta goes in the future?
We got a crazy schedule, boy. Tell them.
Right.
The first year we started getting really into it was the year COVID hit. So we had this whole big planned event. It was going to be crazy.
Right.
I remember
Final Four.
I remember we did the walkthrough, and literally the next day the whole world shut down. And we had to go virtual that year. We came back the next year.
I'm sorry. Y'all joined us
on
the back end.
Yeah.
The United Way. Shout out, because we didn't know, we scrambled.
Yeah, we were scrambling.
So thank y'all for believing in us then.
And, since then, as we've continued to reimagine what 404 Day looks like, we've all linked into this idea of a party with a purpose.
Yeah.
Atlanta loves a good turn up,
right.
But we wanted to kind of add an additional level of value on top of that, right? So last year, we launched the inaugural 404 Day Scholarship. Same thing with food. We're doing our first ever community give back and food drive this year. Food inequality and access to food is a big thing for our communities, right? So, as much as I would love to say that we have, these huge, tremendous, big rocks, I'm a big fan of what we say is quick hits and big swings. And I think we're doing a big mix of both of those, right? We have some big swings like the scholarship, but also some quick hits of just, creating fun opportunities for people to come out, safe engagement. And then there's some big swing things we're planning on doing, this year going forward, actually working with local politicians on things like legislation. Again, we're doing some quick hits right now, but I fully believe that we got some big wins that are coming right around the corner.
So one of the big priorities of United Way is this idea of college and career ready. How do we help school-age kids get on and stay on a track to graduate from high school successfully and move on to college or careers, whatever it is that is their great ambition. 2 weeks ago, I talked to a kid whose graduation from college was threatened because they had some lab fees and a couple other things that totaled maybe $750, and they just didn't have it. And they were trying to figure out how to tell their mom and dad, who had scraped every dime they could to help them get through school, what's the scholarship program going to do to help that kind of circumstance?
That was kind of a pain point that we heard about, and we went to directly kind of solve it with this scholarship. We raised over $20,000 for the AUC Emergency Fund, and so that money went directly to the AUC Consortium, and it helped pay all the outstanding fees for every single graduating senior in the AUC. So nobody was stopped from graduating because they had a $100 bill here or a $600 bill there. And the goal is to continue to expand that, right? It's all about intention and attention. It's an intention for where we're going, an intention to bring the city together, to create opportunities, but we do that by paying attention to what's in front of us right now. And we do that one step at a time.
I am hopeful that what people see from April 1st to April 4th, the attention, gets amplified by this conversation, which is about the intention. It's got to be more than just having a good time. It's got to be about making this place better for everybody, but also just building on the momentum this brand of Atlanta has.
Now, what is he supposed to wear?
He always outfits me now, so I got my jacket, but it'll be
Yeah,
too hot.
remember he
It'll
got
be too hot to wear
I
the
choose
jacket.
culture. It is going to be too hot that day.
I was gonna say, when in doubt, man, throwing Atlanta influences everything. Sure,
right,
you
okay,
know, when in doubt,
okay.
that always works.
Then I
Oh,
need
you got
to-
a throwback Morehouse?
Yeah, I do.
So people just start to naturally wear all this random Atlanta stuff, and that's what helps the party with a purpose become even more of like this fun, unique thing.
There is amazing stuff rooted in Atlanta that you guys are helping to drive. I wish you all the continued success and count on me and United Way to be there wherever you need us.